Matt Hardy, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Listen, I can't be more excited to talk to you, man. Listen, we got Extreme Rising coming up. You got three shows coming up with Extreme Rising. April 4th in Philadelphia, then the 5th and 6th in Staten Island. Um,
I have the fourth, the fifth, and sixth. I'll be with Ring of Honor.
oh, really? Okay, see, because they had you scheduled with Extreme Rising. See, Extreme Rising doesn't help me out at all here. Well, then I'm going to start right there because I don't even see you on the Ring of Honor list right now for the what is this? The show that weekend. That would be Super Card of Honor, right? What is it called?
Yeah. Well, my thing at Ring of Honor is a little different. I'm not under contract there, so I'm not technically a roster member. So like, I'm not always listed immediately as one of the first people. I'm usually a late addition, but I can't tell you right now ahead of time. April 4th, I'll be with Extreme Rising, and the 5th and 6th, I'll be with Ring of Honor in New York.
Oh my God! Listen, let me say something. Why wouldn't they? I'm going to start right here. Then this is the first question. You're part of Scum. You were revealed as part of the major heel faction in Ring of Honor. Why wouldn't they be pushing you harder? You're one. You're probably. No, I'm going to say it with all confidence. You are the biggest star they currently have working with them. Why wouldn't they push you more, man?
Well, I think it's one of those things. I mean, I'm there and I loan a lot of TV exposure and a lot of TV experience. So I can help out a lot of their guys. I think even too when they're promoting events, I think the first thing they need to focus on is promoting their guys, or their key players, their contracted guys. And I think I'm just a bonus. Maybe towards the end when you get in those last few weeks of promotion, they kind of throw a Matt Hardy on there and it helps as far as extra ticket sales, specifically my fans. But I think they're doing a good job of being true to the Ring of Honor fan base when it comes to promoting and taking care of their talent. And as far as pushing me hard, I think if you watch the plot unfold as we go forward, I think everyone will be pretty happy with what happens.
That sounds delicious. Mikey, are you?
Matt, you're obviously an integral part right now of both ROH and Extreme Rising, and you're kind of like a key player who's on the precipice of the main event scene. So I was wondering, based on the way you've been working with and elevating younger talent like the Adam Coles and the Luke Hawkses of the world, you kind of remind me a little bit of what Chris Jericho does in WWE, or maybe what Rob Van Dam does in TNA. So do you think that's kind of an accurate comparison? And also, are you happy with what your current role is in both of those companies?
Yes, I am happy with my current role in both of those companies, and I've loved the Ring of Honor thing. It's been a lot of, it's been fun to me. I found a lot of enjoyment in it, and even to the fact that the Ring of Honor fans actually dislike me so much that they're diehard Ring of Honor fan base. It makes for me for a really fun environment and a fun persona to portray, and it makes it really easy on my job where I can be as real as possible, where I can really be Matt Hardy, as far as like inspirational, motivational, optimistic guy, and it's not like I'm not going out trying to get cheap heat as far as it goes with these fans. So that's really enjoyable as far as it goes. As far as being compared to Chris Jericho. Yeah, I think I am helping out talent, but it's like if you look at my records in both the companies, I'm actually undefeated in both of them now. So, I actually think I get used better than Chris Jericho. And in a lot of ways, I can say this, I'll go on record and say I wish they would use Chris Jericho better, just because Chris is an extremely talented guy. We've been friends for a long time, and he really is giving back, and he's helping build other people up, but I think he could be utilized in a better position because Chris does a really good job of covering up how weekly they've pushed him, I think, because he's that good. But it's one of those things where, yeah, I am in Ring of Honor, and I feel like I am there to help elevate other guys. Adam Cole is a prime example. Like from the first day I met him and worked with him, I'm glad I was able to work with him, and I think it has been good for him. And Matt Hardy fans now have put their eyes on Adam Cole, and I think he'll attract some of those people, and they'll eventually follow his career, and it will help him on going forward. And I think the future's unlimited for an Adam Cole. He's extremely talented, way ahead of the curve on every aspect, in-ring work, promo work, personality at age 22 years old, professionalism. I think his future is really, really bright.
Yeah, we've had Adam Cole on the show a couple times. I can't believe I compared him to Shawn Michaels, a young Shawn Michaels, because he just has that charisma in the ring. He's special, and you can tell already.
Yeah, he truly is special. I will go on record and say that as well.
Yeah, Matt. I wanted to go back to what you were talking about when we mentioned Chris Jericho. You had mentioned that you were undefeated in both promotions currently, and you kind of touched base on how WWE was currently using Chris Jericho. We had Chris Jericho on our show a couple weeks ago, and he had said, to us that wins and losses really don't matter at all. Do you agree with that statement, or do you think that it kind of reflects a way that you're being utilized or how the company's valuing you currently in their product?
Chris, there is some legitimacy to when he says that wins and losses really don't make a difference. Because if you're established like a Chris Jericho is, or even, if you're established like a Matt Hardy is, people know who we are. They get our characters. They've seen us through the ups and downs. We've been pushed enough, and we have won enough matches and are credible enough in fans' eyes where it doesn't really make a difference in hindsight if we win or lose. They're still going to support us. But when you're looking at the overall picture of like, okay, we want this guy to become champion, or we want to build this guy up to make him stronger, or, to face so-and-so so that people believe in him, their wins and losses do matter with that. I mean, it's just like watching a good movie. I mean, if the good guy in the movie gets beat up every fight in the movie, and then at the very end he faces the top heel, whoever the boss is, it's like, oh, well, I don't really expect him to win because he's got beat up every time. You want to build credibility for that person. And I think if Chris was a full-time employee and they were pushing him to be the world champion, I think it would make a difference if he had wins and losses. As far as how the people are going to react to him, not really. There are times where I look at performers now, like, for instance, the three-man band. I've never worked with Heath Slater. I've never worked with Jinder Mahal, but I worked with Drew McIntyre quite a bit right when I left. And Drew's an extremely talented guy, and he's really good. When he first came in, they were pushing him very strongly, and for a while he was undefeated. He was the chosen one, and he was the guy they were going with. And now whenever I do catch the program, I see these guys and they get beat really quick and very often, and it's one of those things like it's hard for a talent when it's never been developed or never really got established or over or in front of a big fan base. Like I was very lucky I was on during the Attitude Era when all the people were watching. Like someone like Drew McIntyre, wins and losses are going to make a big difference because until he starts winning again, it's going to be hard for him to build up that credibility. And like when you build credibility, that's when people truly get behind you.
It's completely agreed. Now I'm gonna jump a little bit here. Back to Ring of Honor for a moment. You were part of Scum, which is a giant heel stable taking over Ring of Honor. Now this is the third federation now that has a heel stable predominantly featured, which is the Shield in the WWE, Aces and Eights in TNA, and now Scum in Ring of Honor. What do you think about the heel stables taking over in wrestling right now? And is this a sign of the changing times in the wrestling scenery?
Well, in all actuality, I am not a huge fan of the heel stables taking over. I think it's a little overdone. I actually have some ideas creatively that I want to input into the what Ring of Honor is doing currently to try and make it a little different. Like, for instance, I know the Aces and Eights when they came out, they said, it was guys that were done wrong by TNA and they wanted to destroy TNA or take it away, much like Scums want to do with Ring of Honor. And in some ways, I don't know. I don't see the logic in that always. I understand the process of why, people buy tickets to see their hero beat up the villain. With WWE, I think the Shield is a little different. I think you have three young guys, and it's going to be interesting to see how, their careers continue to excel going forward, to see if they're handled properly, because I think they've done a really great job with those guys, and I think they're very different from the other two groups. I think heel groups are okay. They're a little overdone in wrestling. I have some ideas creatively where I would like to try and do some things differently with the Ring of Honor deal. I don't think this is going to be your very generic standard heel group that keeps trying to beat people up for months and months without the babyfaces coming out and making saves or running people out of the promotion, or these guys aren't allowed in the building, but how they get in the building tonight? Sometimes it's a little overdone with me because I really think the wrestling product has to be done where it doesn't insult the intelligence of the fan or the viewer nowadays. I think it needs to be sophisticated. It needs to be smart, following the trend of all the great TV that's on now. Wrestling doesn't really compete with wrestling as much as it competes with the sophisticated, great television series that are on now.
That's a great point. Great point. Mikey, are you?
I was talking about Extreme Rising. It's been pretty successful operating within its means, but there's also been some discussion lately about potentially expanding it into more of a full-time promotion. And I was wondering if you think that Extreme Rising has the ability to thrive if it expands, or do you think that it should remain kind of in its current situation?
I think it has the potential to expand. I think one thing they've started doing now, they've kind of accepted the fact that they have to take new guys and build them as their own, whether it is the Luke Hawks or Papa Don or whoever it may be. And I know there's some new guys they've brought on the scene, because they have to keep expanding out, because you can't build it based on the old ECW concepts and use those old ECW guys. Guys get older and, guys can't perform. They can't do the same things they did in the past. But they can't help lend credibility to newer, younger guys, much like we were talking about earlier. And I think there is a niche market for like an extreme style wrestling where there's kind of no rules or anything goes. I think once again it has to be done within, parameters that they set. Okay, well, this is our Extreme Rising promotion. This is how we do our wrestling. This is how it's different from a WWE or from a TNA or from an ROH, and they have to kind of abide by those parameters they set for themselves. I don't think it can be ECW of the 90s. Like sometimes I think people get in this big habit of we want Attitude back or we want ECW back. ECW was great while it was here. It was revolutionary, but it's gone. It has to be something different. It can still be a different style wrestling program and wrestling brand, but it does have to be different. And I think there's a market for that place, and I think if their management team could handle more events, I definitely think there's a marketability there for them to run in, like the older ECW towns that do appreciate that niche of wrestling. So I think the market's there. I think the guys are there. I just really think it's up to the management team and, the office to see if they can handle that kind of schedule and workload, because really now it's going to be up to them. It's not so hard for them to get the guys to come in and wrestle. There's a lot of really talented guys out there and a lot of talented guys that work for them already. The tricky part for them is being able to go to each town and being able to promote the event in the right way so that it draws the kind of attendance and the kind of house that they can pay for the show and pay all the guys and be profitable and make money. So it just all depends on them. It depends on how well they're staffed and how hard they're willing to work.
MC?
Yeah, Matt, I want to go back to something you said earlier about how you wanted to do something different with the heel stable faction, and you didn't want to insult the intelligence of the audience, which we can all agree is great. But, just a question on we're very critical on this show, and on all fans are, of the storylines. You being a performer in those storylines, and you've been a part of thousands of them. Do you get a sense of when a storyline isn't working, or if it doesn't make sense, or are you so caught up in just executing it and trying to go out and put on the best show that maybe sometimes you're not able to see that, boy, that this storyline could really be better, or this doesn't make as much sense as it should?
Man. Sometimes you do have a sense of like something isn't working or something's not right or something's not clicking, but it's one of those things like most anyone who has a regular job can understand this. If you have your boss give you like a set of orders, like this is what I want you to do, this is how I want you to do it, now do what you can with it. Say if you're a mechanic and they want you to repair a car and, they give you the parts to do it, they don't necessarily which way you do it, and there may be a faster way or a better or a more efficient way to do it, and that's kind of up to you as the employee to figure out. I think a lot of times whenever you're doing something, if you have guys that are really talented and really have a good grasp on what they're doing, they can be given material to work with, but then they can make it better, at least, try and maximize the potential of it. And that's kind of like how I foresee this thing. Like, I think a lot of the stuff they have laid out is good. I think the stuff they did after the original pay-per-view event, the iPay-per-view event, where they set up the Scum, I think the TVs the next few weeks were pretty strong and pretty sophisticated and followed a Ring of Honor TV programming, so to say. But I think going forward, like, I'll be honest, when I see the aces and eights continue to run out and attack people and beat people up, but none of the TNA dressing room comes out, or, none of the good guys or the people that claim they're fighting for TNA or that have been beat up by them before come out to assist people, or why they just don't have these guys arrested, it doesn't make sense to me, especially considering a sophisticated program. It's one thing if, you have the roster saying, no, we're going to challenge you, we're going to make this competitive, and, you come out and, our best guys will take on your best guys, and you can kind of understand why that happens. But I do think it has to have a different spin on it, and I'm not necessarily a big advocate of any place saying, I want to come out and destroy this company, because I think if it's a television program, I almost feel like you would want to take advantage of being on a television program and being a star and making money in some way. So, once again, I just think it's really important to think about what a viewer thinks when they're watching the programming and make sure that you're not insulting their intelligence.
Listen, this was a great interview. We really appreciate your time. Matt, would you like to tell everybody where they can find you on the internet?
Yes, and you can go online and find me at my official website, which is matthardybrand.com. And anyone that is a big fan of Rebby Scott, you can also find her at rebbyscott.com. That's her address, and lots of good stuff there. She's a full-fledged member of Extreme Rising. They've kind of coined her as the new Queen of Extreme, so I'm enjoying her in that persona. And for everyone else that wants to follow me on Twitter, it's twitter.com/MattHardyBrand, and YouTube is youtube.com/MattHardyBrand. So, yeah, check out all my stuff. I constantly update everything. I am a big advocate of social media and interacting with my fans, and I love doing that stuff.
Listen, man, this was a great interview. We appreciate the time, Matt. Good luck on everything going forward, and have a great day, man.
You got it. Thanks, man. Thank you, guys.
See ya.